signing day in the books. We mentioned it with Jayshon Barham jumping on board, but Michigan signing 26, I believe. Prep prospects as well, finishing number 17 in the country. Chris, you mentioned it earlier. I did want to bring kind of that up in general because you finished 17th. I think last year was 18th or 19th. And I know rankings aren't everything. And I know Michigan does a great job of identifying talent and then developing it when it gets here. And you can supplement all that with the transfer portal. But when you start looking at class averages the last couple of years, compared to what Michigan had the few years before making these college football playoff runs, you've taken a slide a little bit. But again, transfer portal's been, a little bit, used a little bit more. You bring in 9 scholarship guys this past offseason. All of them are in the 2 deep. All of them have made key contributions at different points, maybe with the exception of Jack Tuttle, but having a backup quarterback that is ready to go is reliable in and of itself. So you have to use both. But NIL and everything. And I'm looking at the team rankings right now, and it's all teams in the South other than Oregon that are really ranked ahead of Michigan. Notre Dame's at 9. They come in, they lead the Midwest outside of Ohio State. I should have said Ohio State as well. But they operate like a Southern team. And then Penn State pretty much right there with Michigan at 15. Your guys' thoughts on just the fact that it has kind of trended this way, and obviously this new era has had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, need a little more star power. They need a better NIL game. I think there's no question about that. So they are lacking some star power with the exception of maybe a Jordan Marshall, right? If you look around, and it used to be Michigan would get 5, 6, 7 top 100 guys, maybe a guy in the top 20 back in the good old days. And it just isn't happening anymore. And I think we all know why, right? This NIL/pay to play. And, kids are pulling up now to press conferences and Lamborghinis. Come on, man. But we're sitting here talking about a cheeseburger, it just blows my mind, but it is what it is, fellas. And the South is always going to continue to recruit well. We know that Michigan will get its share of players, but to really separate and to be a Big Ten champion, you need guys like JJ McCarthy. You need guys like Blake Corum, right? So hopefully they will get their NIL game together, and this will pick up because they aren't going to win a lot of championships, fellas, if they don't recruit just a little bit better. And I understand the portal plays into it as well, and that helps, but you still need to get some of those blue chippers, guys, to build your culture and continue your culture. And to me, they've got a little work to do here to catch up.
Yeah, there's always been like this pie in the sky, I think, dream scenario for Michigan fans where, there's no reason we can't recruit like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State. And one, there is, first and foremost, it's admissions. It's a little more stringent there. But I don't think there's anything wrong with expecting them to recruit at a, top 5, top 8, top 10 level. And when you look at these classes the last few years, yeah, I mean, usually there's kind of a tone set early on where who your foundational guys are. And yeah, they picked up some nice pieces last year. Samaj Morgan, I think, is going to be a really nice player for this team. You look around the rest of that 2023 class, a lot of TBDs. Now, what I'll say about this 24 cycle is that I think that there's a little more star power at the top. I think that Jordan Marshall is day one, a guy that was ready out of the box to make an impact. I do think that Jaden Davis can be a guy that leads this offense, limits mistakes, makes smart decisions with the ball. I like that addition there. And then the offensive line. I mean, I think the offensive linemen that they brought in are really going to be guys that when you get them in with Ben Herbert and that strength program, and then the development that comes with playing for Sherrod Moore and whatnot, I really do like. To me, that's 3 major boxes checked. You've got Marshall at the top. You've got, I think, a really good group of offensive linemen, and you've got the perfect type of quarterback to run this offense they like to run. So to me, again, I don't know if that tree bears a ton of fruit early on, but yeah, it needs to get a little bit better. I mean, there's no reason that Michigan should lose out on recruits to, Kentucky and I don't know. And I can't think of a couple other schools that guys trended to elsewhere, but NIL has leveled the playing field to a certain extent. I think there was like 20 different schools that landed 5-star recruits this cycle or something crazy like that. But Michigan, yeah, that needs to again, they've done a really nice job of avoiding self-inflicted wounds on the field, but they can't quite seem to avoid them off the field enough to get recruiting and NIL headed in the right direction. So that is a concern. And I don't know. We're going to do this dance again next year. Is it just kind of something that keeps happening?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you got to play whatever game that others are playing. Oregon has become, they're coming into the Big Ten. They've become really the hot program in the portal. They've become the hot program in high school recruiting as well, especially when it comes to some of these non-Southern teams. Ohio State survives yesterday with a couple key signatures, a couple key defections as well. When you look at this Michigan class, though, what's the position group that gets each of you guys excited the most overall that's coming in?
Just running back with Marshall, and I can't pronounce the kid's name. Can you guys help me?
I think it's Kapana.
Okay, thank you. I think he's underrated. I think he's a good big back and a good powerful back, and kid is going to be a good one. So that's it to me. You look around, and I do see a lot of guys that it's going to take a while for them to see the field. And tight ends as well with Brady Priscorn, obviously, and Hogan Hansen. So those really be the ones for me. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they recruited those positions well, given how much they use those guys in their offense.
For sure.
Yeah, same deal for me. I like, again, Jordan Marshall, dude that's going to be, I think, in the mix right off the bat, regardless of who comes back. You have a couple offensive linemen, Andrew Sprague, I think Ben Roebuck's another one, where a guy that just these 6'7", 6'8" type of guys. The edge kid they picked up yesterday, I think, is 6'7", 230 already. So you got some good body types to work with. You got some good, there's some good moldable pieces there. But, as we sit here and try to project who makes an impact on opening day, it might be a handful of guys. There's always a couple surprises that come out of nowhere. But, yeah, to me, it's the offensive line. It's really the offensive line, tight ends, running back, the things that Michigan always does well. I like what they were able to add in this class.
Yeah, Lugard Edakpai, potential mispronunciation there. Can he play wing in basketball? Is a question I had. But they're going to bulk him up, and it sounds like he didn't have a Power 5 offer till October, and then got all the big offers, ends up with Michigan on signing day. So that wasn't a surprise, but it was a big pickup for Michigan on signing day. I'm going to go – I would agree with running back, probably tight end. I'm going to go with linebacker as, one that I think was pretty underrated coming in here. You have a whole bunch of guys, not even including Barham, getting him out of the transfer portal, but Mason Curtis, 4-star Cole Sullivan, who is going to be a stud, I think, 4-star Jeremiah Beasley from Belleville, who I saw a couple years ago as a sophomore, and I thought he was the most impressive guy in the field outside of Bryce Underwood. 4-star Jaden Smith, and then 3-star Zach Ludwig, who comes in relative of Ben Herbert. So you got to love the grit probably that he's going to have as well and bring to the table and be a culture guy. But I like the linebacker haul. AB, you mentioned instant impact guys. Chris, you wrote about this yesterday. I mean, yeah, it may not be. I think Jordan Marshall's obviously number one and could be a guy that's right there in the rotation. It may not be much more than like what a Samaj Morgan can bring for some of the other guys. And that was quite a bit this year. That might be the ceiling, but there could be some guys that burn that red shirt, see the field early on.
Yeah, I love Jacob Oden, and is a special teams guy right off the bat. I think this is a kid who's going to be, those kids that get Michigan, right? And his dad, obviously, and his family being Michigan grads. That's one guy that I like in that respect. And then again, Priscorn, I think with the tight ends, if AJ Barnard were to leave, you need that complement, right? And they've got some guys there that are waiting in the wings, but Priscorn's a pretty good talent there, and he's got the size already. Add a little bit of weight on him. He's a kid that I could see maybe not having quite the Colston Loveland freshman type of impact, but having an impact at that position.
Yeah, for me, someone else maybe to keep an eye on, the receiver out of Chicago, Amari and Stewart. I know EJ likes him a lot. Feels like he's kind of in that Samaj Morgan, Carmelo English type of mold. Maybe a guy that factors in on special teams next year as a returner. I know he's brought a lot of juice there in his high school career, but other than that, we'll see what happens. You got to get him in the lab and let him thrive and go from there. And there might be guys that show up in June that kind of come out of nowhere and make an impact. We've seen that plenty of times too. So we'll see. A lot of roster building still to go, obviously, with the portal and a couple little targets dangling out there for the final signing day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Amorion Stewart was on BTN yesterday, did some good interviews, and he was also on with our guys over on the Wolverine YouTube channel who had interviews on signing day with 20 different recruits. So check those out. Fantastic work by EJ Holland and Zach Libby. But Amarian Stewart, fun guy to listen to, and kind of reminds you a little bit of Samaj Morgan in that way as well. Don't want to get, can't get guys getting in trouble at all, with what they're saying, but definitely some personalities, I would say.